Okay, I'm back. Had to switch laptops here. This is or started as a live coding of an application, taking it right from idea all the way to the first sale in what I thought would be at first 8 hours, then 5 hours. Now it's almost 3.5 hours till my deadline when the wife comes home from work. But I am still going to try to get this app idea out to the first sale by the time she comes home. So get comfortable. I got Cha and I'm all set up with my laptop. The laptop I'm on now has Visual Studio Code set up with ChatGPT so that we can code this up really fast. What we started when we were on the other laptop was what we wanted to build, and that is a language learning app, primarily used on mobile. But we thought that because of the short time, we would work backwards. So first, we would set up an online presence with a payment method. We would advertise that we're about to launch this app. We would put something of value out on that website. And then if we have any more time, we would code up additional functionality. So whenever I'm working, I always set on the whiteboard here an objective. That objective is the only thing I focus on until I'm done. Once that's completed, I have a new objective. If I don't know what the next objective is, then my objective is to find out what I need to do. Right now, I need to set up a website with a payment method so that we can get the first sale. Now, I always go directly the quickest way to reach an objective. My objective is right now is just to get an online presence, set up something that people can reach on the internet. However, and the easiest way to set up a website would be just a static website. Because of the short time though, I know that I will want to try to code something more than a static site. I'm going to jump steps, and instead of a website, I'm going to go directly into a dynamic web app, wherever my marker is, which I've completely lost. Here we go. So we have to decide on tech stack. I always go for vanilla JavaScript, until I have a reason why I need to use a framework like React. I'm open to using React today or Angular, but until I can communicate a reason why we need that, I go with vanilla JavaScript. And then for database, because we're going to need data. Now, this isn't reaching my objective, so I don't know why I'm even thinking about this. For database, I always go with non-relational until I can express a reason why I need a relational database, and then I go to Postgres. So for document library, the closest thing to JavaScript objects that will be used by JavaScript, I use MongoDB. MongoDB as a database, Vanilla.js on the front end, and then I use Express, Node.js with Express as my web server. So this is my stack that's tried and true. It's worked for me, and that's what I'll be trying. Right now, though, we'll still set up the web server because we're going to need that in a minute. But I'm just going to serve up a static HTML website with that web server. So I am on the computer I have set up with Visual Studio Code and ChatGPT. I have a video where I walk through the setup process of that. So anytime I've done a walkthrough of one of these steps, I'll just skip it here. Let me see if I can share my screen though. Oh, and welcome. I think I will be using Stripe for that payment method. When I Googled the simplest payment method to use, Stripe kept popping up in the results. So is that the absolute simplest, quickest way to take a payment? Maybe not, but the time I would spend looking for anything else is not worth it to me right now. So I'm thinking Stripe is our payment method. If I run into a problem with Stripe, I'm going to go with the next easiest option, and until we find something that can take a payment. I'm trying to share my screen here. There we go. So I'm in Visual Studio Code as my code editor. Anytime that I start a new application, I create a folder for that in the C directory. I have a folder called apps, and I put all my apps in there. So within, I've created a folder called language by, and that was the really quick brand name brainstorming that we did. Couldn't think of anything else. Languageby.com was available on GoDaddy, so I purchased that domain. And if it is clunky, I'm looking at the brand name written down, and it looks really clunky. It's hard to read. So I think that eventually I'll want to change that brand name. I just can't. I don't have the time to brainstorm and think of a better brand name. So that's what we'll go with for now. Okay, here we go. So I have ChatGPT connected. It's in my left pane as an extension. So I don't want to use CodeGPT's LLM. I want to go down to third party, like OpenAI, for a model ChatGPT 4.0. It says I'm connected. I'll confirm that. Okay, we're ready to go. So I'm going to ask, pretend that I've never done this before. How can I set up Node.js app? They say install Node.js. I do have Node.js already installed. They say make a folder for your app, navigate into it, install Express using npm, which I already have Express installed globally. And then they give a main application file. So that's one thing that I can create here. Go back to Explorer, right click, new file. I'll call it app.js, like CodeGPT said. Now I go back to my ChatGPT chat. Insert this. Oh, and thank you for the recommendation on Stripe. You know, doing this live really is the easy way because you get help like that. I appreciate it. Okay, so the code that ChatGPT suggested for .js file on our Node server requires Express. They say app. This is the route, and it responds with hello world as a text string. I'm going to want to change that to send an HTML page. But the app is listening on port, which is 3000. I don't know why 3000. I'm just going to make this port 80 so I can navigate just to a local host. Control S to save this. And I'm going to open up terminal. I'm already in my terminal at the language by folder. So we use the Express web server. So I'm going to first do npm node package manager install Express. And the fact that I'm installing a package like that, that will create a package.json file here in my app folder. Package.json. We're not using any other packages quite yet. So I think I can try running this little application with node app. And should be on port 80. Yep, I can. In my web browser, I can navigate to localhost, and I'd be expecting to see a hello world. Yeah, so hello world exists. Now the Express server is just returning text for the browser to display. I don't want it to return text. I want it to return an HTML file. So now if I'm working on something, I always have to, I'm going to lose track of what I'm doing. So set up a website. I already set up Node.js or an Express app. Express app. So now I need to have the Express app send a HTML file. HTML file. Okay, got my live. So I'm going to go here in VS Code. I'm going to go back to the ChatGPT chat and say, how can this app send a HTML file to the browser? So they say you create an HTML file. I am going to, at some point, I'm going to try to walk this through like I was doing it for the first time, just in case anybody who watch this in the future is unfamiliar. I show them how to solve answers. But here I'm going to jump steps where they say create an HTML file. I know I don't want to send just an HTML file. I would rather send something a little bit more robust, like a .ejs file. So back in my Explorer, I'm going to create a .ejs file with my HTML in it. Now, these files here, I don't want anybody to be able to access. I only want them to be able to access what will be sent to their browser. So user comes to this web app. I want to make certain files available to them. And I'll put those files in a folder that I call public. In the public folder, I'll create a new file and I'll call this index, not index.html, but index.ejs. Just gives you a little bit more functionality. So here's my index.ejs file, which would be the main file that I send to users who visit this. Back in ChatGPT chat, they say, here's code for your HTML file. So I insert that into my index.ejs. Cool. Now that I have that created, I'm going to Control S, save that. And they say modify your app.js. So this is your app file with a little bit of additional code. So I'm going to just delete everything ChatGPT gave me at first. Insert new code for the file. And they say that it requires a library called Path. So I don't have that installed in this application folder. So down here in the terminal, Control C, I'll stop the app from running. And then I will install the package, sorry, not install, npm node package manager, install Path. Path is the name of the library that will look through the app folder I have here, find the main index.ejs file that I'll send to the browser. So I installed that package that looks up my folder and file structure. Save this and then I'll try running it. Running it down in the terminal with node app for node app.js file. Click enter. Oh, now see, they gave me a port to run this on of 3000 again. I like going port 80. So I'll change that in the app.js file. Control S. Down there in the terminal, Control C to kill the running app. And restart it with node app. Now I'm going to go back to my browser and see if this is returning the index.ejs file. So it will not, but I want to walk you through why. So the that should pop up in my browser when I try this is an h1 of hello world, and then just a paragraph saying welcome to my Node.js app. It's not going to work. Watch. So localhost, it's implied it's on port 80. And it gives me an error saying there's no file or directory called directory, apps folder, language by folder, index.html. It's one of two reasons why this isn't working. So in my app.js folder, when the visit website goes to the home page, the response sends a file of index.html. We are using index.ejs because we want something a little stronger than just an HTML file. So I'm going to change this to index.ejs. Control S. down in the terminal, kill the running server with Control-C, up arrow to the last command, which was to run the node app, and it's running on 80. Now we'll try reloading our website in the browser. It's still not going to work. And the reason why is because we do not have, I know I am skipping steps, but if we want to point our Node.js app to the public folder and this file, we're going to have to specify that any files that go to the browser, to the user's browser, are in the public folder. So I'm going to have to do this within chat. So I'll say, I'm going to tell ChatGPT, I have a public folder in my app folder. Oops. How can I set that as my static public folder? Really, whenever I use ChatGPT, ChatGPT always over-explains everything, and it takes a long time for it to think that. So what I should be doing is saying, in all these prompts, saying code only, so that it doesn't give me all this explanation. It just gives me the code. The code here that it gave me says that I should specify the app should use a static folder called public. So this line right here is what we need. I'm going to Control copy. They put that right above the, well, I'm going to put this right underneath the port definition. Control S to save that. Now, every time I make a change and save it, down in the terminal, I have a running application, which I have to kill with Control-C, and then restart the server with Node app. And I'm going to be doing this so many times that I don't want to have to kill the server and restart it every time I make a change to see if that change worked. So what I can do, I'm going to kill the server again. There's a library called Mon, which automatically restarts the server anytime a change is detected in the files. And I want to use that here, so I'm going to install that using Node Package Manager, npm install node mon. Okay, so I installed that. And then I can, instead of running the server with node app, I can use the command node mon and then app. When the server's running, I'll go to the browser, refresh my local host. And they say that this Express server cannot find the file index.ejs. I'll make sure index.js is saved in my app.js file. looks like I'm pointing to, oh, what did I get wrong? So the app.js file is pointing express to the public folder. So each time it's looking for a file to send to the browser, it's going to be in the public folder. You know what I can do is just ask I can ask ChatGPT. So I'll say, why is my Express server giving me this error? And I'll paste the error I'm getting in. And I'm going to fill up on coffee real quick here. Back in 2 minutes. I am back. I got a bag of candies and the last coffee. So what we were trying to solve just a second ago was why, when we try to send an HTML or an EJS file to the browser from our Express server, why it was saying that there's no such file or directory. So we asked ChatGPT. What they gave us a little bit of code where they say we have to set the view engine as EJS, which makes sense. So I'm going to put that right before we define our static directory. So paste that in there, Control S to save. NodeMon automatically restarts the server on port 80. Let's go back to the browser and see if we get a web page. We still do not. So I'm going to copy my whole Control A, select it all, copy my whole app.js file, paste this into ChatGPT, and say, why isn't this working? Is working. Oops. I can't close my laptop and use my monitor because the webcam's on my laptop. It's okay. Okay, so they're saying the issue is that you're trying to use response send file to send the EJS template file. You should use the response render. Response render. So they just say when visitors hit the home screen, the response should render the index file. They don't have an extension on index because up here we set the view engine to .ejs. So I'm just going to grab that little bit of that one line of code, put that in my main route. Control S to save that. NodeMon restarts the server. Oh, and then they're saying in the index.ejs file, they made some changes. So are any of these important? No, they actually didn't make any changes. I lied. Let's go back to the browser, refresh. So it says cannot find the module EJS. So there is a node package for EJS, and we're going to have to install that, it sounds like. So I'm going to kill the server here, and then do npm install EJS library using Node Package Manager. That installed, so I can go up arrow in the terminal to NodeMon app to run the app. Go to the browser, refresh localhost. So it says failed to look up index in views directory. So it's saying the views directory is apps folder, language by our app folder, /views. That is incorrect. I'll go back to Visual Studio Code to the file explorer. And our views folder is named public. So somewhere in app.js, we are pointing to views somehow. And it doesn't look like it because it here express static, we're naming the public folder. So why is it thinking that we have a views folder? I'm gonna skip talking to ChatGPT for this, but I think what we have to do is go app.set and then say for express static files, we're going to use the folder name public. So we have to specify that this is the public folder. Let me look at my notes. So we just say express dot static. So the static folder for express will be called, open the parentheses, quotation marks, and we're going to call it public. That's the static folder that we're using. Control S restarts the Node app. Go to the browser. So it still thinks that there is a views folder, and I don't know why it's thinking that. Maybe we don't need this line here. I'm going to comment this out and save it. is running again. I go back to the browser, refresh the page. That did not help. So let's think this out. So I got the other monitor here. We're going for this app. This is the Node.js app.js file, the main file. We're setting the view engine as EJS. We're saying have Express, the web server, use a static folder called public. Some other things that Express sometimes uses are JS. So app use, I'm going to set Express JSON. Try saving that. Oh, and that didn't even work. So on line 8. Oh, whoa. No. I just had app dot some other wonky word. So I made it app.use for folder and JSON. That worked enough to get NodeMon to restart our Express app. Okay, so I'm going to need to ask ChatGPT for help. Go to the ChatGPT prompt. I'm going to copy in all of my copying all my app.js code in here, and I'm going to tell ChatGPT just remember it. I'm going to say this is my app.js code. Remember this. Now paste that in. ChatGPT doesn't just remember it like I asked it to. It's saying your app.js code looks mostly correct. Ensure that your directory structure is set up properly and that the index.ejs file is located in the views directory. So I do appreciate that ChatGPT tells me how to set up my folder structure. So they're saying in this language by app folder, in the root of it, you have app.js, which is our main app file. Then have two folders, a public and a views. I'm not sure why, if this is like some standard or this is just one way of doing it, but I'm going to trust ChatGPT. So they're saying the public folder will have static files like your JavaScript, CSS, the image asset, and then a separate views folder will have the EJS, like the HTML files themselves. So if that's what they say to do, that's what I will do. Go to the File Explorer, create a new folder, and they call this views. Enter to save that, and then I want to move the index.ejs file into views. Are you sure you want to move it? Yes. In my terminal in VS Code, the app is already running. So I'll go to the browser and restart. And that works. So something about having a views folder is necessary, I guess. So I have a header of hello world and welcome to my Node.js app. From here, we can get moving further where index.ejs, this is the web page that everybody's going to see, the landing page. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT extension and then say Create a beautiful landing page for a language learning app. I'm going to tell it, do that within my index.ejs file. I'm going to tell it to include any CSS styling instructions in the file. And I want to tell it what I want the homepage to say. So I'm going to say, I'm going to be honest with anybody that lands on this landing page and just say to tell visitors that we are developing a language learning app where you can import reading material of your choice and have it read to you. With a translation. Now I'm just going to leave it at that. Once we can connect payment, I'll explain my offer that if anybody wants to sign up now, they'll get a lifetime free subscription to any other products, features that we release. But for now, I just want a landing page. I'm not too picky about how it looks. I just want to get it out on the internet. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT I want just the code only. It's going to write that for us. Okay, here we go. So they gave me some code for my HTML or EJS file. I have no idea what it'll look like, so I'm going to try plugging it in, delete everything I already have in there, and then insert ChatGPT suggestion, Control S on Windows to save it, and go back to the browser, refresh this, and we see the first go at what ChatGPT built for us. So I love this already. It has a gradient, violet to blue gradient as a background, nice center box with rounded corners. And it says, welcome to our language learning app. And then basically has as a paragraph what we explained. They beefed it up a little bit with revolutionary language learning app. I don't quite like this oversell of it, so I'm going to want to change the text. And they have a learn more button. I don't want a learn more button, so I'm going to go back to the index.ejs file and just change header and paragraph to something a little bit simple. I'm not going to hype it up like ChatGPT did. I'm also going to remove this whole call to action to learn more until we know what we want to put on the page. I delete that, and then for the header, I'm going to say welcome to language by. We are developing a language learning app where you can import reading material of your choice and have it read to you with a translation. I think that's enough just to get it out on the internet. I want to go one step further. So instead of just the header saying welcome to, let me save this. I'm going to save the file, Control S, go back to the browser and reload it. So instead of just saying the app name language by, I want to make this a little fancier. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, say for the header, have a line of text that says I'm not even going to say welcome. Okay, that says I'm going to put caret brackets language. You'll see what I'm doing here in a second. Language by what you love. Period. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT instead. Okay, no, not instead. So in addition, I'm going to say have the word language change from language to stories, then to news, then to scriptures, then to what other material could users use to learn a language? So stories, news, scriptures. I'm just going to say etc. See what ChatGPT gives me. Etc. I spelled that wrong. Have what? Oh, no. Okay, so have the word language change from language to Russian, then German, etc. Include a few dozen languages. Language names. And I'm going to tell it have what you love change to stories, news, scriptures, etc. rotate those words within the header. I'm going to tell it code only. I don't want it to explain what it is. I just want the code to plug in. So what I'm trying to have is when the user comes to this site, instead of saying, let me refresh this. So instead of, I want it to say, learn English by Python, learn Russian by Bible, learn Arabic by news. And I just want the text to cycle through so visitors get a sense of what they can do with this app. Let me go back to Visual Studio Code. It looks like it's still thinking. No, it gave me a little bit of code here. It's still generating it. Now, I must have some limit on how many characters ChatGPT returns because it looks like it cut off right in the middle of the script. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT just to continue. Okay, everything that I have in my index.ejs file right now, I'm going to delete. So Control-A, backspace, and then I'm going to insert what ChatGPT just gave me. If my VS Code doesn't freeze up. Okay, here we go. So ChatGPT first started on the EJS file code. So I'm going to insert what it gave me so far. Oh, I need to plug in. I just inserted what ChatGPT gave me for the HTML file, and it cut off right in the script at the bottom with what you love. So in ChatGPT, I told it to continue, and it kept giving me code. Now the problem that I already see is that, so here's what it's doing. The website is supposed to swap out the word language with actual names of languages, Deutsch, Ruski, whatever. But to do that, it looks like they're creating an array of language names and then an array of ways that you can learn one of these languages, so with stories, news, etc. It goes on forever though, and I don't think I need all of these. I'll include Tamil, but I'll delete everything after that. And then the ways you can learn these languages, I'll include biographies, but delete a lot of other things. I need to close out the array of ways to learn. And I'm going to ChatGPT cut off again. I have some sort of limit on the number of characters. which I won't look into now. I'm just going to tell ChatGPT to continue. Hopefully it gets to the end of this script section, finishes out the index.ejs page. ChatGPT is tripping right now because it keeps giving me ways to learn. And I don't know if this is Greek, what it is. Okay, I'm gonna hit stop. Okay, I'm gonna tell it stop with the what you love array. Continue. I want the rest of the index.ejs file. I don't want it to just keep giving me options. All right, here we go. I'm going to trust that this picked up after the array of ways to learn. So I'm assuming that this picks up right after. I'm going to insert the rest of the page. Save. And then I'll try reloading the page. I really love what they did with this. So I'm only looking at the top one. There's going to be a lot that I want to delete. I don't want to learn more button. I don't like the really flowery language like Revolutionary Learning App. So I'm going to change the header here and the paragraph. But this top part I love already. So they're saying Greek so Arabic by essays, Hebrew by journals, Hindi by letters, Bengali by novels. I love how they are showing the different languages you can learn and the ways that you can do it. What I want in front of this, though, is the word learn. So I'm going to go back to VS Code. Scroll up. I want to be in the body of the HTML. Looks like they have a div for that header that I love. And what I'm looking for is a way to insert the word learn in front of language. So span. I guess I'll just create another span here. And I'm going to put the word learn in that span. This header one that says welcome to our language learning app, I don't want that at all. I want to keep this really simple, so I'll delete that. And then for the paragraph, we are developing take out the word revolutionary. We're developing a language learning app where you can import reading materials, plural, of your choice and have it read to you with a translation. That's perfect. In the array of ways to learn, I want to take out letters. I don't think that's really a way people want to learn. They get a letter in the mail or email and they learn the language with that. I'm going to take that word out. I love all the languages that they're offering. I like it. Control S to save back in the browser. Refresh. I forgot to delete the call to action button to learn more. I don't have anything to link in there right now. I'm going to take out that call to action button. Control S. And I like it. So this is what I want to first get out on the internet. From there, we can work backwards and hopefully add payment, like a pre-purchase, and then additional functionalities. But I want to get this page out on the internet right now. Okay, so we solved how to get Express to send an HTML file. We like the HTML file. Our objective is to set up a website and payment. We got the website already coded up. The next sub-objective is to deploy website to the internet. I'm going to use Google Cloud. It's the cheapest. Deploy website to Google Cloud Platform. I had a walkthrough of how to get started on Google Cloud. So because I went through those steps, I'm not going to go through all the steps of setting up a Google Cloud account, a project, stuff like that. I'm going to log into the one that I set up in that video. Going to Google Cloud now. Objective here is to deploy the website which is built to Google Cloud, and then we'll set up DNS and connect the domain name. I am signing into Google Cloud right now. Bear with me, I'm just getting into Google Cloud. I guess I could share my screen here. Now, I did walk through this in the video on setting up a website on GCP, but I have to do this for this app as well, so I might as well walk through it as well. I'm in Google Cloud in cloud storage, and the storage bucket name has to be the name of the URL that we have lined up. So the domain we just registered early on was languageby.com. That domain has to be the name of the bucket. So when I hit continue and try to do this, it's going to give me an error because it doesn't know that I own languageby.com. So I have to prove to Google Cloud that I own that. And I can do that down in the gray information box by hitting learn more. And then halfway down the page, they have a link to open the Google Search Console where you can prove that you own that domain name. So I'm going to do that now. I'm in Google Search Console. I'm adding my new domain into Google Search Console, my Google Search Console account, as a property, saying that I own languageby.com. So I'm adding that. It then takes me to my GoDaddy account, has me sign in there to prove that I own languageby.com. Google verifies that, and as soon as it's done, languageby.com is going to be a property in my Google Search Console. Google Search Console is where I will then prove to Google Cloud that I own the domain, and I'm able to use that domain name as the name of a storage bucket. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so Google Search Console, languageby is owned by me, and I've just verified that with GoDaddy.com. So back here in Google Cloud, I won't get any errors saying, we don't know who you are. We don't know that you own this. So I'm able to name my bucket languageby.com. Continue. I want to be cost conscious with this app project. So I'm going to store everything in, you know what, I am really stupid because I am walking through the step needed to deploy a static site on Google Cloud. What I don't want to deploy a static site, I want to deploy a Node.js server. And see, this is why the objective is so important. I said deploy website to GCP, and I went ahead and started to deploy a website to GCP. What I want to do is deploy Node app to GCP. I admit, to have a social account where we can connect. Really just YouTube and email bigstupidtech@gmail.com. I don't have like a LinkedIn. I'm not on, really YouTube's the only one. I probably need to set up some social accounts for this channel somewhere. If I do, I'll definitely link them in my YouTube account. So what I'm doing right now is I'm in Google Cloud and I need to set up a new project for this app. I just realized I was trying to deploy infrastructure in another project, so I'm creating my own project for languageby. Project name languageby. Billing account. I can use the billing account I already have, so I can just create that Google Cloud project specifically for this new app. And while that is creating, I'm just going to take a 60-second break. Be right back. back here, and it looks like on Google Cloud, the new project was just created. I'm selecting that. We'll be able to deploy some infrastructure for our app here once this loads. Now, so our objective is to, actually the main objective that we're working on is to set up not a website, but a Node app. And a payment method. So to do that, we need to deploy the Node app to GCP. To deploy a Node app, the service that, let me share my screen. Maybe I will share my screen. So there's a few ways you could deploy a Node application onto Google Cloud. What really is simpler is App Engine. The problem with App Engine is that you deploy it there and you're kind of locked into Google Cloud. What I prefer instead is to use Cloud Run. Cloud Run allows you to deploy an open standard onto this managed container service, Cloud Run, that Google runs. And that allows you, if you don't want to use Google Cloud anymore, you can take your open standard container and move it on to AWS, Azure, or anything else. So I love Cloud Run because I'm not locked in to Google, but it is very efficient and it is a cheap way to run a Node application. I'm going to set up, to do that, we're going to need to containerize our Node application. Desktop. I have Docker Desktop. So let me see where we're at with the objective. So to deploy a Node app to GCP, I created a GCP project, and then I'm trying to deploy the Node app to Cloud Run. To deploy it, I'm going to need to containerize, because Cloud Run takes open standard containers, so I need to containerize the app. That is the next objective, and I don't work on anything else until I've containerized my app here. So I'm in my Visual Studio Code with the app folder opened, language by. I've just pasted in a Docker file. So to containerize this Node.js application, I need a Docker file. So I just copied into the folder a Docker file that I've used for other Node.js apps. So I know this works. If you're building this from scratch, you can right click, do new file, and you just make the name Docker file, no extension, enter. It will create a Docker file, and then what you need in this is first a base container image. So you say from space node latest. What that does is pulls from the Docker repository base container image for Node.js, and this is the full Node base image, the latest version. You can do Node : and then other names. You could research this online to get a more lightweight container image with, if you are really concerned about efficiency. I don't care about efficiency here, so I'm using the full Node base image. The working directory is app/app. I'm giving it the instruction to copy everything that's in the package.json file, then run within the container npm install to bring in all the libraries that I'm using for this Node app. Copy everything, and the command to run the app would be node index.js. Now this isn't true. The command is node app.js because our main app file is app.js. So I'll save that, save this whole file. And then I'm going to go into my Docker desktop and create a container image with these instructions for my Node app. So to containerize, I'm still containerizing the Node app. Oh, thanks for that, Amit. We're asking about why not host Node.js on Render or any other platforms. I have not ever used Render. I loved a couple of the other easy hosting platforms where I could simply, pull from a GitHub repo or something, and it was super easy deployment. They all costed more than Google Cloud, and I guess today, because I'm trying to get this out as fast as possible, maybe I should use one of those quicker services. If I run a Node app on GCP, it costs me as low as $8 a month, which I haven't found anywhere else. If Render or anything else has that cheap of a monthly cost, I would certainly use it, but I haven't found anything that's as cheap as Google Cloud. I definitely got to check out Render, though. I appreciate the recommendation. So what I'm looking for right now is the commands that I'll need to containerize my Node application. And I had them in notes somewhere. You know, I forget all this stuff. Every time I launch an app, I always forget the steps involved. I should really write a run book for myself on launching a new app like this, because I use the same stack at least once a month. And so I should really make this easier on myself and write this stuff down. You will see me flopping around and struggling here. That is completely normal for development. It is the job. So what the notes I have are these would be the Docker commands. I'll go to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open up a new terminal. PowerShell should work. The container image, so I'm struggling here, but if I containerize the app, I will need to upload. Actually, the objective before deploying Node to GCP would be to upload container image to artifact registry. So I'm missing this step here. Upload container image. Image to artifact registry. Artifact registry is a service in Google Cloud. It's a repository where you can store your container images. So that's what I want. That's what I'm aiming at. And to do that, I need to build a container image. I'm going to go on Google Cloud to Artifact Registry and take a look. I'm just making sure that Artifact Registry is ready to use. Because I created a new project for this app, Language By, I have to enable the APIs for any services I use for this project. So Artifact Registry, I definitely need. I'm going to enable that. Okay, so now I have the API enabled so that I can use Artifact Registry. It says create repository, so I'll hit on that. The name, I always try to go the name of the app, Language By, space or dash Artifact Registry repo. Dash repo. I name my objects in Google Cloud always with the name of the app or project, and then what it looks like I'm creating. So if I'm creating an Artifact Registry repo, I'll just name it just in case I ever see this element pop up. I'll know what it is. So I leave myself breadcrumbs. Format, Docker. I have Docker Desk installed, so I can use that to containerize. Standard mode, regional location is okay. I don't need resiliency. If one region goes down and the app goes down, I can't deploy. Again, that's okay. For the region, I'm going to pick the center of North America. So US Central 1. Hit create on the repo. It's just taking a minute to, yeah, so now I have an artifact registry container image repo. The path to that repo I'm going to need at some point. So I'm going to copy that and put it into my notes here. And then in Visual Studio Code, I'm going to need to authenticate to my Google Cloud account. So to do that, I am going to type gcloud. This is gcloud is a command line add-on that I installed already. So I can go gcloud auth, authenticate, and I want to log in here. So I'm going to here VS Studio Code log in from my terminal, second terminal I've opened, and log in to my Google Cloud account. When I hit that, it opens up a browser and allows me to sign into my Google Cloud account. It says you are now authenticated with the gcloud CLI. Now that I'm authenticated from my VS Code terminal to my Google Cloud account, I need to connect Docker to my Google Cloud account. So there's this command here. I remember having to connect my Docker desktop locally to my Google Cloud account with this command here. So I'll paste that into the terminal. It'll take a minute. It says login succeeded. Now, I don't remember if I'm missing a step, but what I think I need to do next to containerize my app is to build a Docker image. And to build that, I first use the Docker build command in my local terminal. And what that command does is give a container image the name of the Google Cloud Artifact Registry repo that I want to send this container image to. Down at the bottom of my notes, I copied in my repo. So language by, I'm just going to try different things. So this here in the middle is what the commands I believe I need to put in to containerize my image. The US Central 1 is the region I'm in, and then I need a name. I think the name is the name of this artifact registry repo. So I think that's it. I'm going to copy that name, swap out the placeholder, with that. It's going to be in images, and then I want to give a name to the image. I'm just going to call it, I always name things as the app name, language by, dash, I think this is. So I think this is a container image. When Docker builds this container image, it's going to build it with everything that I have in this folder here in my terminal, my apps folder, language by terminal. So to say you're building it with everything in that folder, we put the dot at the end. This is saying, because we're in the terminal in this path, build it with everything in that path. So I will try grabbing that whole command, copy, and then paste that into my VS Code terminal. Let's see what happens. It's trying to build it. This is Docker installed locally on my computer. Trying to build a container image for the Node.js app that we just built. I do know from past experience that if something is wrong with the command or process, it just goes on forever and ever. It'll say building for 30 minutes. So if it takes too long, I know something's wrong and I want to try a different command, but it's only been running for a minute. I think it still might be working. This is the command we just put in, highlighted in my notes. A Docker build command. And it is taking quite a while. I'm starting to suspect that there might be something wrong. Looking back at my notes, one other app I deployed, it looked like I put in another command. So once I had logged in from my terminal to Google Cloud with the gcloud auth login command, and that was successful in logging in, I put in this command, which I thought connected my local Docker up to my Google Cloud account. It looks like at one other point I had, on another app, I had put in another command, which was gcloud auth. And this was a configure -docker. That didn't work. Configure -docker. Space \, And then the name of the, I think this is the artifact registry path of some sort. Copy, Control V. So this is the command I used on another app. I have no idea if this worked on that app or not, but I'm going to, here in my VS Code terminal, I'm going to kill the Docker build command with Control C, maybe. CLS to clear off the screen. I'm putting in the command gcloud auth, configuring hopefully what's my local Docker. So it says gcloud credential helpers are already registered correctly. So we're back at the Docker build command. What I think I'm going to do is copy what I think is the Docker build command. I'm going to go to ChatGPT within VS Studio, and I'm going to say, why is this command not working? And paste the command I used in there. This is exactly why I use ChatGPT 4.0 instead of GitHub Copilot, because in Copilot they limit the responses back to coding related questions. So because this is a Docker question and a containerization question, GitHub Copilot may or may not answer this. ChatGPT answers anything. So I love ChatGPT more. So they're saying, oh, okay. So they're saying the command may not work because the Docker daemon is not running. That's good to know. So I'm back on my Docker desktop. I'm going to see, oh, so the engine is running. You can see Docker desktop engine is running. So it's not that problem. Make sure you are authenticated to Google Cloud, because they say, now, okay, I don't know for sure that I am authenticated to Google Cloud. So I'm going to ask, how can I test if I am authenticated with Google Cloud? Asking ChatGPT, how do I know these prerequisites are in place? Specifically, how do I know I'm authenticated to Google Cloud from my terminal? So they say put in this command, okay. I'll copy this authentication command straight from ChatGPT into my terminal, hit enter. Now they're adding credentials for this repo locally. That I haven't seen yet, so I may have not been authenticated at all. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay, the Docker configuration file was updated. This is good. So I'm going to hit up arrow in my terminal to the Docker build command. I'm going to try to run that again, because now that I know Docker desktop has the engine running, and now that I know Docker configuration file has been updated. I'm trying to run the Docker build command again. It failed the first time. And as it builds, generally if it's under a minute, I still have hope that it is building it correctly. If it takes 2 to 3 minutes, something is wrong. I can just kill the build process and try troubleshooting again. But we're at only 30 seconds of building the Docker image. It could be working. If it does not work, ChatGPT gives a couple other things that could be wrong, like they say ensure that Docker is configured to use the Google Cloud Artifact Registry. Now, what that was I think the first command I tried. I brought this in from my notes, which was logging Docker in to US Central 1-Docker.package, and that is the Artifact Registry repo. So this command looks like it was correct, and I ran it. While that tries to build, I'm looking through my notes to see on other projects, did I try anything else? It still is looking like it's building, even though it is over 2 minutes. It's not telling me anything is wrong with the container build yet. So I'll look through my notes, see if I can see anything. So this is on another project. The build command used Google Cloud location. That looks accurate. And then the project name. So this is wrong by the looks of it. It looks like this here should be just the project Google Cloud project name, which for this is my app name, language by, and then slash oh, I got this all wrong. No wonder it didn't work. So it goes the Google Cloud location, then the Google Cloud project. I now have that accurate. Slash what looks like a artifact register repo name. So I'll copy that from my repo name path, put that in there. Slash the container image name. So I call it the app-container image. I think this is a modified command that we need to use. So I will, here my VS Studio terminal, I'll kill the container build, clear screen, paste in this updated command, hit enter. Hopefully this builds within 60 seconds. And we are trying to build an app within 5 hours, which became 4 hours, and now is less than 2 hours. Let me look at the timer. Yeah, exactly 2 hours left. Trying to build an app, so we're not getting very far. But the objective, we always keep the objectives here so I don't lose my mind. Our objective now is to containerize our application. We built a little Node.js application, and we are trying to containerize that in order to deploy it to Google Cloud on the Cloud Run service. So that we're live, and then once we're live, we'll try adding a payment, re-pushing the code, and if we can add a payment, then we'll try to add functionality to the app still today. The container build process has taken over a minute already, but at least I had the command format that worked for another app. So I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track in building this container image. While I'm waiting for that to build, I'm going to copy my Docker build command and put it into ChatGPT. I'm just going to enter, I'm going to see if ChatGPT sees anything wrong with that, or maybe they'll break down what the command does and we'll spot a problem with it. They say the command you provided looked mostly correct. Mostly correct for building a Docker image and tagging for Google Cloud Artifact Registry. Here's a step-by-step guide. You say authenticate Docker with Google Cloud, which I tried running that command. I didn't get any errors, so I'm going to assume that part is good. Build the Docker image, comparing what they're suggesting with what we put in. So the US Central 1 location / my GCP Google Cloud project name / my artifact registry repo name / the container name that I want, space dot, which means that we're pulling all the code from this current terminal's folder location. So I think that command that's running okay, but then ChatGPT says once that is successful, you push the Docker image to artifact registry, which we can't do unless this build step works correctly. But it gives some troubleshooting steps. So if Docker command is not working, here are some common issues. Docker daemon is not running. I know that the engine is running on my Docker desktop. They give a command to start Docker, but I don't think I need to use that because I have Docker desktop and the engine is running. They're saying authentication issues. I've already tried logging in with gcloud auth login. I've already done configure Docker to US Central location. And they say artifact registry setup. Ensure that the artifact registry repo is correctly set up and the region and repo name are correct. I'm pretty sure they are. Check the Docker configuration, which I may need to do. Well, I'll just give that another minute to try building the container image before I try something else. While I do that, I'm going to read some of my notes from containerizing previous apps. Now, what I can try is, this is taking too long, so 5-6 minutes. So I'm going to kill this Docker build command. Clear the terminal screen. I'm going to retry some of these authentication commands. First, the configure Docker auth command. Oh, so they say the config file contains these credential helper entries. So they say cred helpers. And ChatGPT mentioned this on the left. Cred helpers, US Central 1 docker.package.dev gcloud. That credential helper is correct. We tried adding credentials. At the end, they tell us that the credential helpers were registered correctly. We'll try this other command that I don't even know what it does, but at some point on another application using this. My notes don't say whether it worked or not. Giving yourself good notes is really important because I would be able to navigate this current problem a lot easier if I had good notes on how I did this last time. Okay, so login succeeded. That's what it told me last time, but maybe something didn't work. I'll go up in my commands, up arrow to the Docker build command. I'll try running it again. I'm only going to let this run for 60 seconds, and then if that does not work, I'll kill it and try something else, because it really shouldn't take longer than 60 seconds. That's while that's trying to build, I'm going to go back to Google Cloud. So location is what I've been using. Project language by is what I've been using, and the repo name looks accurate. Everything looks exactly like what I've been trying to tag this container image with. Again, still trying to do a Docker build to containerize my image. It's already taken a couple of minutes. Whenever it's worked for me in the past, it hasn't taken a couple of minutes. It's taken like 60 seconds. So I'm going to try different things. What I was using for was project ID. I'll try using project number instead. So here in my command, I'll paste the project number. I'll paste the whole command, Docker build command that I've been using. Copy that below, and then instead of project name, I'm going to try using the project number. I don't think this is it, but you got to try everything. Clear screen. Trying the Docker build command with the project number instead of the project ID. So seeing it trying to build the container image, it looks like it is going out to docker.io and to their library looking for the latest node base image of the container. Looks like they tried to resolve it, transferring context. I don't know exactly what that means. I'm just going to let every time I try a different command or try troubleshooting something, I'm going to let it run for 60 seconds and I'm going to kill it. I tried something else. So one of the things ChatGPT suggested was that you make sure the Docker daemon is running on your machine. You can start it using the command. Let's see if I can use that command into terminal. No. I'm in a PowerShell terminal. I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how can I check if the Docker daemon is running from PowerShell. Oh, good. So there's a PowerShell command for get service by the name of Docker. I'll copy that, paste it into PowerShell. So they can't find a service name Docker. You can also check that with Docker space version. I'll try that. There is a version. So I know I have Docker on this computer. Okay, so you can start the Docker daemon with this command. I'll try running that. I'm going to try restarting my Docker desktop, just in case there's something wrong with the Docker daemon on my computer. Docker desktop says it's starting the Docker engine, which I need running if I'm going to do a Docker build of a container image. While Docker desktop is restarting, I'm going to see why this supposed PowerShell command is not working. I'm just going to paste the error that I got into ChatGPT. You receive the error, ChatGPT says, that it cannot find any service with the service name Docker. It indicates that the Docker service is not installed or not recognized by the system. So you can, step one of troubleshooting would be to verify that Docker is installed with this command, which I'll paste into the terminal. Yep, Docker is installed. So to start Docker desktop, and then they give a command where you can start Docker desktop. But Docker desktop desktop application now says that the engine is running. So I think we're good. I'll see if ChatGPT has a command where you can test whether it's running, which they may have given to me further up in our chat. This one here. I'm going to retry running the Docker build command. The version of the command where I had the location, the project name, not number, the Git artifact registry repo name, and then the name of the container image I want to create. So I'm going to retry that command. While that tries building a Docker image, I'm looking through my notes to see if I left myself any breadcrumbs while trying to containerize other applications. I've tried building it for about a minute. Usually at that point, I know something's wrong. I'm going to kill that Docker image build attempt, clear the screen, and then what I'm going to try, so this is the command I just ran here. What I'm going to try doing is running it, but instead of having the artifact registry repo name, I'm just going to put the word images. I got that in a default command where perhaps Google Cloud knows images mean whatever artifact registry repo you have. So maybe they know that. I'll try with this command. I'm going to give this around 2 to 3 minutes to try building a container image. I'll go try to make some more coffee, and I'll be back in 3 minutes and see if this Docker build command actually worked. So I'll be right back. back here with some coffee and leftover lo mein. I had left Docker trying to build a container image for about 5 minutes now. I know that if Docker build takes more than a couple of minutes, usually something's wrong, unless the internet connection is very poor. So I'm going to kill this Docker build attempt. Control C. Okay, clear the screen. And I'm going to start it again with Docker build US center. So the location, Google Cloud project name, artifact register, repo name, and then the container image name that I want. I'll just start this while I think through how to troubleshoot. Now, I know that our objective is to containerize the very basic app we've just built. Trying to containerize it, though, I keep running into problems with the Docker build command. So I really have a new objective, and that is to find the problem with Docker build. Troubleshoot Docker build. I can do nothing else until I figure out what is wrong with the Docker build command. And then if I can figure that out and successfully Docker build, then I can push that container to Google Cloud in the artifact registry repo and continue on. But nothing is going to work until I find out what is wrong with Docker build. I don't even know where to start. So I will try to ask ChatGPT here on the left how to troubleshoot. Now, I did ask them a little bit about that, but I'll try again from the top. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Actually, I've only had this command running this time, Docker build command running for 1.5 minutes now. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how long should a Docker build command take? Just to see if perhaps it's taking slower today and there's nothing wrong with my command or computer at all. How long should a Docker build command take? Let's see what ChatGPT says. Yeah, coffee is strong. Okay, so this Docker build command could take a number of times the complexity of the Docker file. We've got a super simple Docker file here. Base image size. We are using the full size Node.js base image, but that is not huge. There's nothing there that should be larger than average. It should be taking quite this long. So ChatGPT really doesn't tell me an exact amount of time this should be taking. They always keep it way generic and unhelpful. But this command has been running for a little while without success. So I'm going to kill it, and I'm going to try to go step by step and troubleshoot why Docker build is not working. So clear my terminal screen. What I want to test first is, can I even connect from terminal here up to Google Cloud? So last ChatGPT, how can I get details about my Google Cloud project? With gcloud. gcloud is the command line tool that I have installed in terminal. With gcloud. How can I find out what my Google Cloud project is like? Because if I can see what my Google Cloud project is like from terminal, that means terminal to Google Cloud is working. It's connected, I'm authenticated, everything's working like that. Okay, so here's one command I'll try. It's gcloud projects, describe, and then the project ID. Project ID I always have as the app name, which today is language by. Putting it in my terminal, my command line. Seeing if I can use the gcloud command line tool to reach out to Google Cloud and pull in details. That is working. So it was created today. It's active, gives the name, and I recognize project number from the website Google Cloud Console. So my computer to Google Cloud is working. We can check that off. Next for Google, I guess we would have to see if my terminal is connecting to Docker. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT how that I can check if Docker daemon is running on my computer. And specifically, this terminal is using PowerShell, so I'm going to ask specifically from PowerShell. See what ChatGPT says. So ChatGPT says to check if the Docker daemon is running on your computer from PowerShell, you can use the following methods. Step one is with the command docker info. So I'll try that in my terminal, docker info. That gave me a lot of information. I'll scroll back to the top of that information. So version looks familiar. It gives me the path. What I'm looking for is if it says whether the Docker daemon itself is running. So it knows that there's 13 images. That sounds about right for this laptop. There's zero containers running as well. There's nowhere in the information that I see whether or not the Docker daemon is actually running. I have Docker desktop open. It says the engine is running, but I would like confirmation that that is working from my terminal. So I'd like to type something into my terminal that reaches out to Docker and says, yes, this is working. So ChatGPT says there's this command. You can check the status of the Docker service using the get service commandlet. Let's try. I got an error on this message or on this command earlier. We'll try now though. So get service. I get an error on that command, so I'll copy that error and then oh wait, so before I try troubleshooting why get service is not finding any service with the service name Docker, I'm going to try just this Docker version command because ChatGPT is making it sound like Docker version command should tell me if Docker is running or not. So Docker version, go up to the top. They say the output if Docker daemon is running. So plain text, so client would be Docker engine community. Mine says cloud integration. I don't know if that client matters. Server. No, I do. Docker engine really is running because ChatGPT is saying if Docker is not running, you'll get this output that says error during connect. This error may indicate that Docker daemon is not running. I did not get that. I got back all information. So I am confident that Docker engine is running. All that leaves in my mind is the connection from Docker to Google Cloud. Somehow those two may need to talk and they're not talking. So I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, how do I know if Docker and Google Cloud are set up correctly? ChatGPT says you can verify your Docker setup, which I already ran the command Docker version and it looked okay. You can run a test container. I'm not really interested in creating a test container if we already verified that Docker is running on this computer. So running a test container is not going to help us with our problem. Our problem is building a container, not running a container. So I don't want to try running an example container. That doesn't help me at all. They say you can verify your Google Cloud SDK setup with gcloud version. They do say you can initialize gcloud. Now I've been using a couple of gcloud commands, including those get information about my Google Cloud project. But it may be worth trying gcloud init anyway. Okay, so my gcloud was set up to use another project. So I'm going to create a gcloud, Google Cloud SDK project for the project I just created. So I'm going to call it the project name language by -config. It's checking the network connection. This is good actually, because I had not run gcloud init since creating the Google Cloud project that I'm trying to use to run this app. So gcloud init will set up my command line connection to this project. So what account would you like to use? I pick one. Which project? Language by 6. I think we really might have run into the problem that my cloud command was not set up. Assume that could have been the fix. I'm going to try running this docker build command again and see if just initiating the gcloud session is enough to make that container build work. Yeah, I'll only give this a minute or two to try building the container image. If that does not work, then I'm going to try some of these other commands next, like which one? The gcloud auth configure docker command, or the docker login to gcloud. I'll try these commands if, right now I just did a gcloud command line tool initiation, config initiation for my new project. So I'm trying a Docker image build with that. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try to configure Docker within my gcloud config. It's already been running for more than a minute. I really don't trust these when they try building a container over a minute. So I am going to kill this, clear the screen, and then try some of these commands, which are connect my Docker on my laptop up with my Google Cloud project. Okay, putting that one, I'll try putting in the other one. Wait, no, that didn't copy. Login succeeded. I like that. Let's try doing a Docker build again. While that is running, what I'm going to ask ChatGPT is, how can I get info about artifact registry from gcloud. So if I could type in a gcloud command in the terminal and get information about the Google Cloud Artifact Registry repo that I have set up, that will give me some comfort that I'm actually looking at the right project, looking at the right repo. Everything is set up between me on my computer and Google Cloud, where I have the container image registry. So I'll ask ChatGPT that. I will let Docker try to build this container image for a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just because now I've done the new gcloud init. Everything does look good, so I'm just going to get a little bit of time to try to build this container image. Meanwhile, I'll read up what ChatGPT has to say. I'm trying to let Docker build me a container image here, and it's taken already several minutes. So what I could do is ask ChatGPT why this is taking so long. I want to describe exactly what the terminal is telling me. So it says it's building step 4 of 9, extracting SHA. So spending a lot of time extracting, and I want to ask ChatGPT if this is normal or what's it doing. So I'll just ask ChatGPT. I told him what I'm doing. I ran a Docker build command. And it's been stuck extracting SHA-256. I'll just ask him, is something wrong? See what ChatGPT does here. So it says that whenever we're stuck extracting image layers here, it could be caused by several factors, including network issues, which I recognize, especially because I'm live right now. My network bandwidth may be super low, and this delay in building the container image might just be a network problem. They say it could also be problems with the Docker daemon itself, disk space limitations. They give me a couple things to try here, which I'm going to need to go in and try if I can't get a... Oh, wait, hold up here. So they pulled down all the image layers from docker.io, and that first time here, I've been trying over an hour. For the first time we got onto subsequent, it looks like it copied the package.json into the container it's trying to build, and now it's trying to install Node packages with Node Package Manager. This is further than we've gotten. So it's letting me know that this is working. So fingers crossed. Let's see how this actually works. And it built it. So it built a container image with our basic code and put that in my Docker desktop images repo, local. All I have to do now is push that container image up to Google Cloud and in the artifact registry repo that I just created. So this here is the command that worked. I'm going to delete all the other tries. We know that this worked. And then the next command I need to do is a Docker push. I need to grab what worked out of the build command and put that into the push command. So the project name, Google Cloud project name, then the artifact registry service that Google has, the name of the artifact registry repo that I created, and then this is going to push there as a certain name. And I already tagged the container image with this name here, so I need to use that same name down here. I'll copy the whole command, and in my Visual Studio Code terminal, paste that command, hit enter. This should be putting a container image from the laptop up to Google Cloud. So here on our board, I like to keep the objectives up to date. We trouble containerized the app, so that's no longer our objective. Highest objective is to upload the container image to Artifact Registry on Google Cloud, which we're doing live right now. If that works, we will need to deploy that container image to Google. And then if we do that, we'll have other objectives, but we are trying to get our node application running in Google Cloud. Currently uploading the container image to Artifact Registry. While that is trying to push it, I'll go to Google Cloud Console. To the tab I had the Artifact Registry service open. Artifact Registry, repositories, and I created this repository, today's app name, -artifact registry -repo. This right here is where the new container image should get pushed to. Back in Visual Code, seeing how the push is going. Started later than I hoped to. Last night I hoped to build and launch an application and get to the first sale within 8 hours. We're now, I'll check the timer here. We're now just under an hour left. I have created a basic Node.js application, a landing page really for our language learning app. We're working backwards from deploying something. Because I'm so bad with time, I always work backward. First, get something out on the internet. Then I improve that as much as I can within my time limit. So I only have an hour left. Hopefully we'll be able to get this Node.js served landing page out on the internet and tied to the domain name that we just registered for the app. Well, whether I'll be able to develop more functionality, I don't know, but if I do nothing else, at least I'll have a landing page by the end of today. So I work backwards from, I put something out, and then if I have more time, I make that something better. But it is very important. I know how bad I am at time. I have to put something first and then work backwards. If I just start creating functionality in code, I get lost, and at the end of the day, I have nothing out there. I've added no value to the world. So I have to work backwards. We have registered a domain name, languageby.com, in GoDaddy, and as soon as we get the running on Google Cloud, we'll try to set up a load balancer and point our domain name to an IP address that we reserve, so that if you go to languageby.com, by the end of the day, you'll at least be able to see our landing page. It's taking crazy long to push this container image that we built up to Google Cloud. I really don't think anything's wrong though. I think because I'm live streaming this, my internet is really slow. What's always worked for me in the past is that if this Docker build command works, this Docker push command will also work. If the location, project, repo name, and container name are all the same, push command works and build command works. So I have confidence that we will be able to push this. It's just taken a long time, and I think it's a network problem given that I'm live streaming this. I don't know how long this will take, so I think we could start to think about what this app will do once we've got it out on the internet. We are using a web app even though we anticipate this language learning app that we're building is going to be used mostly on mobile. If I had a lot of time, I would try to create a hybrid web or mobile app, try to create a hybrid mobile app or cross-platform mobile app, so that this could get used on people's mobile phones. For time's sake, the experience of the app will still be mostly mobile, I think. So this is someone's cell phone. What we want to do is allow users to pick a target language and then choose how they want to learn that. So choose the reading material that they'd like to read in their target language. So let's say I'm going to use this app myself and I want to learn Russian better. So I would be learning Russian from English. I would choose some material that I would read in Russian, whether that let's say it's a news story. So I need some way to pull in a news article, have the text, and because this is a mobile experience, I just want one line of text at a time. So this would be in the Cyrillic text, one line of the news article. I want a transliteration or a romanization of the Cyrillic text. And then I want an English translation below. I want the Cyrillic text to have little helpers, like if it's a past tense verb, I want a little arrow pointing back. If it is third person, I want a little arrow like this, third person plural, two little arrows. I want little helpers. So I think to make this work, I'm going to have to create some sort of font for the little helper annotations, like a little font that has a back arrow and that we would assign to any past tense verbs in Russian. Just to help me as I'm reading through this article, let me know when a verb is past tense so that I don't have to focus on the mechanics of the language. I can just focus on the news article itself. What's going to be tricky here is how we import. Hold that thought. The container image that we just built just got pushed to Google Cloud's artifact registry, which is the image repo. So on the website, Google Cloud Console, and then the artifact registry service, I'm going to refresh that page. There should be a container image here. There is. So there is a container image. And this is where it gets exciting because I want to deploy this container image onto Cloud Run. And the reason why Cloud Run is because if I used Google Cloud Service like App Engine, I would get locked into using Google Cloud. I don't want that. I want to be able to deploy an open standard container, which I just built in Docker, deploy it to Cloud Run. But if I don't like Google Cloud anymore, I want to be able to take that open standard container and deploy it to Amazon Web Services or any other public cloud. So I'm using Cloud Run for that. It's a managed container service. Here in Cloud Run, I can click Create a Service. I'm going to deploy a container image from Artifact Registry. I just got an alert saying Cloud Run API has been enabled. The container image I want to deploy it lets me browse Artifact Registry, the repo I just created, the container name I just created, and I'm selecting the latest and really the only version of that container that I've ever uploaded. I've only uploaded once. I select that. The Cloud Run service has a name. I always name things in Google Cloud as the app name dash what it is. So this is Cloud Run Service. Region, US Central 1, right in the middle of North America is okay. I'm going to allow unauthenticated invocation, so anybody can reach this. No minimum instances, so I'm going to allow this to scale to 0. I'm going to say that the CPU is only allocated during request processing. Ingress control internal. Because we're putting a load balancer in front of this, I only need that load balancer to be able to hit it. And it will be an external application load balancer. So I check that box. Let's go down here. Containers, container port, 8080 sounds good enough. Well, let me see what I put in the Docker. Port 80. Well, let's try it. Port 8080. I'm going to allow it to scale from 0 to up to 100 containers if need be. I'm going to create that Cloud Run service. I'll take a minute here. Once this container service is created, I'll put an application load balancer in front of it. I need the load balancer in order to get a dedicated IP for this app, which I'll point my domain name to, that dedicated IP. So to create the application load balancer, I'm going to open up a new tab in Google Cloud Console. I'm going to search for load balancing. That tab. Okay, so to use load balancing, I need to enable the Compute Engine API. Compute Engine is the VM service that Google Cloud offers, and that handles the billing for load balancing. So I need to enable this API. This is telling Google Cloud that I'm going to be using this service and you can bill me for it. While that enables, I'll go back to the Cloud Run service that we're trying to build here. It's still in progress. Now let's check our objectives. So the main objective is to set up a Node app with payment. Sub-objective is to deploy the Node app to GCP, which we're doing now. We had an objective of uploading that container image for the app up to Google Cloud, which we were successful in. And so we're still trying to deploy the Node app to GCP. And we can't do anything else till we do that objective. It's building the Cloud Run container for our application right now. This does take a while. Didn't mean anything wrong. I've always had to wait a couple minutes for it to build these containers. Okay, so we're enabled to use the load balancing service on Google Cloud. Right now, we're just waiting on a container to be built. So once the container is built, we'll put the load balancing in front of it. I think we could start creating the load balancer even before the container is ready. The load balancer will be an application load balancer. We do want public facing. I only need a regional load balancer, but I think if I choose regional load balancer and then I go next, it doesn't give me all the options that I want. So I'm going to say, go to the regions and pick global. And if I go next on there, it gives me the option to use the most recent global application load balancer or a classic application load balancer. Classic, the old version, old generation of global application external load balancer, is the only one that has HTTP to HTTPS redirect. So if somebody goes to languagebuy.com, they will be redirected to HTTPS, the encrypted version of the website. And I really want that functionality, so I have to go with the classic application load balancer. Go next, and then I think I can hit configure now. And this is where I configure the load balancer. To configure the load balancer, I'm going to have to wait until the Cloud Run service is up and ready. And so why it was taking so long to build the Cloud Run service was that I had the port set to 8080 on the container, where my application code is using a port of 80. So I changed that on the Cloud Run container, tried deploying it a new revision, and it let me at that point because the ports matched. So now we have a Cloud Run container running on this URL. I'm going to copy that URL and try entering it into my browser. Now this should not work. Yeah. The reason it does not work is that only other services within my Google Cloud project can access this URL. The other service that I want to access this URL is the load balancer, which over here on this load balancing tab, I am about to configure. Load balancing name, all entities in Google Cloud I configure as the app name, language by, dash what the entity is. So here it is a load balancer. I'll just call it LB. You have to configure a front end, so I'll call this language by dash LB front, because that's what this thing is that we're creating, a front end to a load balancer. Protocol HTTP is okay for this front end of the load balancer, and I can use an ephemeral IP address. Port 80 is okay. Done on that front end, but I need to create another load balancer front end, and this one I'm going to call language by dash LB front dash HTTPS, because I'm going to make this front end use HTTPS protocol, HTTPS. For an IP, I'm going to create an IP address, and I call that the app name language by dash IP, and reserve an IP address. If you're using HTTPS, you have to create a certificate. So I'll create a new cert. Call it language by dash cert. I want a Google managed cert. I don't want to have to handle my certificate, so I'll let Google manage that. But the domain is then going to be what I just reserved on GoDaddy. So that is languageby.com. And I'll hit create on that certificate, Google managed cert. So this is the second front end of the load balancer that I'm creating. The first was HTTP, second one's HTTPS. I want to enable HTTP to HTTPS redirect. So if somebody comes to the unencrypted version of the site, they get redirected automatically over to the secure. Their browser is not going to yell at them whether they type in HTTPS before the URL or not. So I love this feature. Click done on that. We got the two front ends of the load balancer that we want. I'll configure the back end. The back end service it could be a Cloud Run service or a storage bucket if we were using a static website. Here we're using Cloud Run Node.js container. So I'm going to create a backend service. I always name these entities app name. Sorry, my nose is itching. App name language by dash what the entity is. So this is a backend. The backend type is not instance group, which would be a group of virtual machines. It will be a serverless backend using Cloud Run. So there's an option for that. Protocol HTTPS. The backend network endpoint group doesn't exist yet, so we'll have to create that. Again, I always use the app name dash what it is. So this is a network endpoint group. Region, we deploy the container to the middle of North America, US Central 1 in Iowa. And we're using the Cloud Run service. The service that we're using is the only one created. Language by dash Cloud Run service. I hit create on that network endpoint group. It asks, do I want to enable Cloud CDN? So this would be Google Cloud keeping copies of the web app around the world to make the delivery time to users' browsers quicker. It does cost a little bit more money, but I think that performance is probably going to be worth it. So I'm going to keep that cloud content delivery network enabled. Nothing else I have to change from the default configuration, so I'll create the backend service of the load balancer. Okay, and I don't need to create any host or path rules. I can hit create on this whole load balancer, and it should just take a minute to build the load balancer out. Now, while it's building the load balancer out and bringing in the reserved IP address, I'm going to go on back onto GoDaddy.com and point or get ready to point my URL to my reserved IP address. Pause my screen. Go to GoDaddy.com. Signing in on GoDaddy. Still signing in on GoDaddy. Check back on the load balancer. Still, oh, it just created. So what I want to point my domain name to is the IP address that we reserved. Let me see if it's under this HTTPS redirect. So that gives me an IP address. I'm going to try copying this. I want to go back to the other load balancing entity just to see if this has its own. Interesting. So here's something I don't know. When it created the Google Cloud, created the load balancer for me, it gave me what looks like 2 IP addresses. So, I need to share my screen, sorry. One second. Yeah, share my screen. Yeah, so I'm logged into GoDaddy. I went to the domains that I own and selected the new one I did, LanguageLi. What we're going to do on here is, one second here. So it looks like GoDaddy offers a website. I'm not interested in the website. I'm only interested in the DNS settings of my domain. Here we go. So here are the DNS settings of our new domain name. I am confused at this point because I don't know if I should point that domain name to the HTTP front end of the load balancer or the HTTPS front end. I'm just going to try HTTPS first. I wish I could see which was the IP address that I reserved. Well, let me see if I can edit. And yeah, I'm just going to grab the HTTPS IP and hope that's the one I reserved, so it will always be that IP address for my load balancer. If that does not work, and this is in fact on Google Cloud a ephemeral IP, I'll find that out. My website will break, and I'll need to use the IP address of the other load balancer front end, the HTTP front end. I'm going to try pointing my domain to the HTTPS load balancer front end. So I'm here in GoDaddy.com in DNS management for the domain that I just reserved. There is a record, GoDaddy web builder, and I don't want that, so I will delete that. And then there's 2 ways I can point traffic to Google Cloud where my app is run. One is over here on name servers, I can make Google Cloud or Google be the name servers for this domain. There's no reason why I would need to do that. GoDaddy has amazing DNS name servers. So if I reserve the domain on GoDaddy, I always use GoDaddy name servers. They are good. So I just go to GoDaddy's DNS records, add a new record. So it'd be an A record, primary. The name is at, and the value is the IP address of one of my load balancer front ends. If this doesn't work, I'll have to use the load balancer, the other load balancer front end. But I've just grabbed one of the IPs here. Grab this IP. I put this into the new DNS record on GoDaddy.com. I always put the time to live as the shortest amount of time possible so that this will get working quicker. And I'm going to save this A record. What is, if anybody goes to languagebuy.com, this will point them directly to this IP address. And this IP address is the Google Cloud load balancer, which will point to our Cloud Run container running application and serve up the app for the website visitor. Now, I want to test this out. So I can grab this IP address that we reserved. I'm going to put it into my web browser, and it says it cannot provide a secure connection. I can't remember if this means it doesn't work at all or if it just is going to take a while to work. What I do to test this is I can try the other IP address that I have on my load balancer. Whoa. So I'm going to get the other IP, copy that, and put that into my web browser. Oh, okay. So pasting one of these IPs into the web browser did not work. Pasting the other one did work. So I put in the IP and I got this landing page that I'm serving out from Google Cloud. So this IP address here is the one that I want to point GoDaddy to. So back in GoDaddy, the A record I created, I can edit. This is an A record. Name is @ symbol. The value is this IP address that worked for me. I don't need the HTTP, just the IP address. I'm going to save this A record into GoDaddy's DNS settings. Now, while I can, in my web browser, while I can go to this IP and pull up the landing site, or I could before I tried connecting it, if I tried to go to my domain name, languagebuy.com, it shouldn't work. Oh, okay. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. As soon as I put the IP address of my Google Cloud load balancer into GoDaddy's DNS records, a record, immediately, and this is rare, immediately I could go to languagebuy.com and my landing page is being pulled up. So this works. What we did is deploy the Node app to GCP. I am looking at my timer though. So my original objective was to deploy entire app and get a first purchase today. I gave myself 8 hours. I'm at the end of time. I didn't even set up a payment method. All I did was set up a Node app Node landing site. So I have to call today's attempt a failure, but what I can do is maybe next Saturday, next time I have a chance, I could pick the app up from here and see how far I get with that time. But in 8 hours, I just deployed a Node.js application to Google Cloud that serves up a landing site for this language learning app. And I'll have to take it further next time, but I do feel good. At least I got a landing site. At least Google now knows about this domain. So if so in the future, there will be a little bit of domain history. It always takes a while for Google to warm up to a domain. So it's good that I at least got a landing site out. We can build it further next time, but semi-successful in today's attempt.